Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be my mid-year Freakout book tag. I am finally doing this tag. It is finally time to talk about the first half of the year reading wise. Before I get into this video, I do want to say that I won't be doing a most anticipated reads part 2. Every year I do this tag and then my next video is my most anticipated reads for the second half of the year. However, I'm not doing that this year. I just don't have enough books that I'm excited about. All of the ones that I am excited about that come out in the rest of the year are in the part 1 that I did. So I'll link that down below if you want to watch that. I haven't been reading a lot and I don't feel like there are that many books that I'm excited about for the rest of the year, let alone to make like a whole video about it. I just don't have enough, and so I thought I would sadly not do a part 2, but I did talk about some releases that come out towards the end of the year in the first part, so make sure you go watch that one. So I do this tag every single year, as I said, and I will actually link last year's video down below, and normally I would also link the creator's video down below, but I don't think it's up anymore. I don't think it's been up for a couple of years now, so I'm actually just going to link another booktuber who has done this tag already that I really enjoyed. So I'm going to link Christy Hannah's down below. I really enjoyed hers. She reads a lot of romance and I genuinely really enjoy her videos, so I highly recommend checking her out. So far in 2021 I have read a total of 72 books, and I will leave my Goodreads challenge linked down below if you want to check out all 72 books I've read so far this year. Now let's finally get into the questions. So number 1, best book you've read so far in 2021. I'm just going to go ahead and mention a few. I feel like for this whole tag I'm just going to end up mentioning a lot for each question because I can't help myself. But I would say probably my top 2 are Marriage for One by Ella Mace and Call Me Crazy by Melanie Harlow. These I both gave 5 stars. I really loved them. Marriage for One is a marriage of convenience, slow burn, friends to lovers. It is very sweet, very romantic, and just so wonderful. I loved it. Call Me Crazy is a small town romance, hate to love, marriage of convenience, contract baby. It has so many tropes, but they all worked so well together, and I loved the characters and the romance, and I'm just obsessed with both of these books. They were so good and definitely like my top 2 faves of the year so far. Then I'm just going to quickly mention a few other ones that would definitely be in my top 10 of the year so far. So we have Naked in Death by J.D. Robb, My Midnight Moonlight Valentine by J.J. McAvoy, and then the entire Thoughtless trilogy by S.C. Stevens. I just loved all of these so much, and I can't help but mention them, and I'm definitely going to mention them in other questions, but I just had to also include these in some of my favorites of the year so far. Number 2, best sequel you've read so far in 2021. For this, I also have 2 answers. The first one is Effortless by S.C. Stevens. This is book 2 in the Thoughtless trilogy, and I just really loved this. I loved the characters and the romance. The first book, Thoughtless, mainly follows Kira, who moves across the country with her boyfriend Denny, and they move in with Denny's old friend Kellen, who is a local musician. Essentially, Kira cheats on Denny with Kellen. This is obviously the second book, so you see kind of the fallout, the whole conversation about infidelity, and no matter how much you love somebody, the most important thing is trust, and that could break or make a relationship. I just thought all of those conversations were so interesting, and I really loved the characters and the romance. I just loved this trilogy so much. And the other sequel I really loved so far this year was My Sunrise Sunset Paramour by J.J. McAvoy. This is book 2 in the vampire romance series. I don't know what the series is actually called. And this is a paranormal urban fantasy romance. The first book is obviously My Midnight Moonlight Valentine that I mentioned as one of my favorite books of the year. I loved both books, obviously. First book I feel like I loved a little bit more than book 2. However, book 2 was still really good. I really enjoyed it. I loved all the characters and the story, and J.J. McAvoy really created the characters and just built great backgrounds for all of the other side characters, and the whole world was just built very well, and I feel like the author did an amazing job on research. The first book follows Drella, who is a new vampire, and she just kind of lives like a normal life. And one day she's hunting in the forest and she comes across this other male vampire who is naked and who has lost a century of his memory, but he recognizes Joella and he thinks that she's his mate. And so they have to figure out how he lost his memory and who they are to each other. It's really, really interesting, and I loved the romance. It was so good. Number 3, new release you haven't read yet but want to. I, again, have 2 answers for this. The first one is Marriage and Murder by Penny Reed. This is book 2 in Jen and Cletus's mysteries, I think. This came out back in March and I still haven't read it. I really, really want to read it soon. I just have to be in the right mood, so hopefully I'll get to that. A little bit of a newer release is To Sir with Love by Lauren Lane. I still have not read this yet. It is so short and I'm sure I could read it in a couple hours, but I just feel like Lauren Lane doesn't release books as much as she used to. I feel like I kind of have to savor it, so I think I'm gonna hold off on this one a little bit, but I really do want to read it. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I am going to mention a couple. So the first one is The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. This is out at the end of August. A lot of people have been reviewing this recently and haven't been giving it the highest ratings, but I feel like I tend to have a little bit of an unpopular opinion when it comes to published romances. So if a majority of people aren't liking it, I might actually like it. So we'll see. I am still really excited and curious about it. The Legacy by Elle Kennedy. This is out September 21st. This is a novella or companion to the Off-Campus series, and this I'm really excited about. I am trying not to have really high hopes because I feel like a lot of people are hyping it up. A lot of people are really excited, and I just hope I'm not disappointed because I felt like that with her Risk University series or whatever it's called. That one, like, everybody hyped up and I didn't even read the last book. I'm so really excited though, like really excited. Serendipity by Kristen Proby. This is the 3rd and final book in the Bayou Magic series. This is coming out October 19th. This is a paranormal romance. I believe this one is Hate to Love, I think. Can't fully remember, but I'm very excited for this one. And then Indigo Ridge by Daphne Perry. This is out November 16th. This I'm very excited about. I love Daphne Perry. I read the intro novella to this new series and really, really loved it. So I'm very excited for this first book in the new series. I don't even know what it's about. I just know it's like a small town romance, I think. Number 5, biggest disappointment. For this, I'm gonna go with Black Sunshine by Karina Halley. This is a paranormal dark romance. I was very excited for this book because it's vampires and I love Karina Halley, and she teased that the male character was a mix of Javier and one of her other characters, and Javier is like my favorite Karina Halley character. So I had very high hopes for this book and it disappointed me. I just didn't feel like the characters were really in love. I didn't feel like the male character was that dark. I also just felt like the world building a little bit, or like the type of vampires or the type of story was a little weak, if that makes sense. I don't know, it just didn't live up to my expectations or my hopes, I guess. I really thought it was going to be like my new favorite book and my new favorite Karina Halley, but it just really disappointed me. Number 6, biggest surprise. For this, I'm gonna go with Thoughtless by S.C. Stevens because this was a reread for me. I first read this back in 2015 and I didn't particularly like it. I decided not to continue the series, but I ended up keeping my copy of it for some reason. I don't know why I held on to it for so long. I always had the intention to reread Thoughtless, and so I decided to just reread it on a whim, and I loved it. I loved it so much more the second time around. I don't know if it's because I'm older now and I just feel like I understand the characters more. Not that I relate to them in any way, but I just like understood them better and I could see all sides. I guess maybe was more open-minded about things. I think I definitely in the past hated the cheating trope, but nowadays like I'm kind of fine with it. I'm like, okay, it's just a book. I don't really care. I just loved it. I loved the characters and the romance, and I don't know, it's now like a new favorite book, which is so weird and definitely a big surprise. Number 7, favorite new author, debut, or new to you. For this, I actually don't have an answer. A lot of the authors I have read so far this year, I have already read from before, or I already knew of, so they were not necessarily new, I guess. Number 8, newest fictional crush. For this, I am definitely gonna go with Jack Hawthorne from Marriage for One. I just loved him. He was so romantic and sweet, but also like really brooding and kind of mysterious and quiet, but he was always so thoughtful. Everything he just did was for Rose. Everything he did was for her, and it just like makes me want to cry. Like, I just absolutely loved him and Rose and their whole relationship, and I'm obsessed with this book. Number 9, newest favorite character. For this, I'm gonna go with Druella Monroe from My Midnight Moonlight Valentine. She is just a fantastic character. She is so smart and badass and powerful, yet super sensitive and protective of herself and her loved ones. As I said, she's really smart. She's super intelligent. She's also funny and just a sweet person. She's just such a great female character. I really, really liked her. Number 10, book that made you cry. For this, I'm obviously gonna have to go with the whole Thoughtless trilogy. I'm just gonna grab the first book, but this whole trilogy definitely made me cry, especially in book 2 and book 3. There were a lot of very specific scenes where I just cried or I was like very emotional about. There's a lot of stuff that happens in these books, and it definitely made me tear up a few times in a good way sometimes too. Like, it wasn't just sad, but it was also like character development, or like, this is like, look at how much they've grown. Like, some of it was like sad frustration, little tears, but a lot of it was like proud tears, if that makes sense. Number 11, book that made you happy. For this, I'm gonna go with Kiss My Cupcake by Helena Hunting. This was a really cute and sweet romance, definitely very cheery, and it made me feel all warm and fuzzy and happy. This follows 2 characters who open up or have restaurants, well, not really restaurant, like a bar and a cupcake and cocktails shop next door to each other, and they have openings on the same day and they kind of compete, and it's a little bit of hate to love, friends to lovers. Super cute, super adorable, and I really loved the romance and the characters. Also, I would say Call Me Crazy made me really happy too. It had a few serious tones. Mainly it was like a very happy, cute book. I also, yeah, Call Me Crazy definitely made me happy too, now that I'm thinking about it. Number 12, most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. For this, I'm gonna go with Chasing the Moon by S.M. Soto. This I did buy from Barnes & Noble. I don't know if it was exclusively available for a Hello Lovely book box, but that is where it originally was from. Somehow it was on Barnes & Noble. I don't really know. I can't explain it. This is my favorite book. I really, really love it, and I now have 2 editions of it. This edition I was like desperate for, and I finally ended up getting it, and I'm obsessed with it. I really, really love this cover. Question number 13. What books do you want to read by the end of the year? For this, I really desperately need to finish the Heartbringer trilogy by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So book 2 is Rage and Ruin, and book 3 is Grace and Glory. Grace and Glory came out at the beginning of June, and I haven't finished this trilogy yet, but I really need to do that. I have been meaning to read this, obviously, since it came out last year, and I wanted to read it this summer, so hopefully I can read this by the end of this year. Like, I really, really need to finish this trilogy. I also have a lot of JLA books I need to catch up on. I have these 2. I have the next book in the Origin series. I have the 2 books in the From Blood and Ash series, and I have like a standalone of hers I need to read as well. I have so many JLAs I need to catch up on, but I desperately want to read these 2 by the end of the year. The next 2 questions normally aren't in the tag, but I've always included them every year, so I'm just gonna do the other 2. Number 14 is favorite book to film adaptation you saw so far this year. For this, I also have 2 answers. I'm gonna go with Normal People, which I actually did a whole video on, so I will link that down below. I know this show is already kind of old. I think it came out a year or 2 ago, but I watched it this year, and as I said, did a whole video on it, and I fell completely in love with it. I really enjoyed the book too, but the TV show was just fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. And then I also really loved Wicked, which is a Passionflix adaptation. I will also link my video I did on that down below. This is an adaptation of Jennifer L. Armentrout's book Wicked, and I really loved it. I thought Passionflix did a great job on their first paranormal sci-fi story. I think the CGI and special effects were decent. The only thing I truly felt like they needed to improve was a lot of the fight sequences and stuff, but other than that, it was a decent adaptation and I really liked it. It is definitely in my top 3 of Passionflix's best so far. And the last question, number 15, favorite video you've done so far this year. It is hands down my Normal People video. That is one of my favorite videos I think I've ever done. It's not like the most innovative, creative video. It is just me reading normal people and vlogging that whole experience and having a discussion about that, and then doing the same thing with the TV show. I just think because I fell so in love with the story, the book and the show, it just became a really fun video to do. And I think that's like my favorite thing, is when I love the source material, it makes me love the video, because then I just feel more passionate about doing the video. And it took me like 3 to 4 days to edit, which is not normal. I usually edit a video in a day. For some reason, that one took me way longer and it didn't feel like it took me that long. That whole experience was just good. Reading and watching it and then filming it and editing it and uploading it, like it was just overall a really great experience. And I love that video. I love how it turned out. I love everything about it. It's not like a really popular video on my channel. It's like one of my least viewed videos. I don't even think it has 1,000 views yet, but it is hands down my favorite video I've done so far this year. So that is it for my mid-year Freakout tag. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them, or go ahead and answer some of these questions from the tag down below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!